Hey guys, it's Shan Crawford back with another video, and today we are talking about lifting the burden that lupus has on your life or has put on you. So for a lot of us, we can feel like lupus is a burden, and really lupus can be a double burden because it's a burden already to have it, but we also can feel an extra strain if we feel like our lupus is also placing a burden on others. So, of course, like if someone is taking care of us, if we're living in someone else's home, if someone else has to be responsible for certain necessities that we may need or for functioning, it can feel like we're putting a burden on other people as well as putting a burden on ourselves, because it's already rough enough trying to get around and trying to manage these different conditions and the way that we feel in our bodies and in our minds. And then to add on top of that, how we think others might feel about how our condition is affecting their lives, that's where it can come in and be a double burden. And a lot of us, if you're like me, we want to be independent and we want to contribute to society. We also want to be able to do the things that we love, but we often aren't able to. So we're going to talk a little bit about how we can lift this burden off of us. In some ways, better than others. Even if just a little bit. I just want to talk about that today because a lot of us are dealing with this, and I want to be able to give you some relief from that today if that's possible. So this burden thing, it can really easily lead to a loss of motivation. It can make us feel apathetic, like we don't care, and for a lot of us, it can make us deal with things like depression or anxiety or stress disorder. I know for me, a lot of times I have dealt with depression, and I know a lot of you out there can relate to. I talk to you guys in the lupus communities all the time, and depression almost comes hand in hand with lupus. Because how can it not? It's so hard not to get depressed when there's so little sometimes that you can do, and there's so much that you want to do that you can't. It's so hard not to get depressed, and it's so hard not to get discouraged sometimes when you're dealing with lupus. But having these different mindsets, having these different perspectives, sometimes even having a mentor or a life coach like me who works with lupus survivors and fighters and warriors can help us shift our perspective and help us keep our thoughts healthy and in a good place so that we can relieve ourselves a little bit of that burden. We want a way to solve this problem because we want to be able to lift the burden that lupus puts on us. So I'm going to share with you guys some of the things that I've done. I want to share that with you so that you can use them if you find them helpful to do so. So I think I have 5 things. Let's see. No, actually I have 10 things that I can share with you guys. So that's exciting. Hopefully you'll be able to use at least one of them out of there to help sort of lift that burden off of you. But I'm going to go through them, and I'm going to try to make this video short, so bear with me if I'm talking a little fast. But I would advise for you to write these things down or grab your phone and go to your note app if that's helpful, so that you can refer back to these things. And I'll try to remember, we get brain fog and everything with lupus sometimes. So I would advise for you to write these things down. But of course, this is a recorded video, so you can always go back and listen to them over and over again if you want to. But right now would be a good time to pause and grab a pen and paper so you can write some of these things down. Okay, so one of the first things that I've done that have helped lift the burden for me is tons and tons of research to find and implement a source of passive income. So passive income is, I like to call it sleep money. So money that you make in your sleep, money that you can make while you're doing something, while you're sleeping, while you're cooking, while you're entertaining, while you're resting, whatever it is that you're doing, this money is coming in and going into your bank account. So there's so many different ways that you can figure out how to make passive income. It will take a little bit of starter work to get it in motion, but once you put the initial work in, you can leave it alone, or you only have to check on it from time to time to make sure everything is running smoothly, and you can put money in your pocket from month to month, week to week, day to day, whatever the case may be. I'll just give you a few examples of that so you know what I'm talking about. So like drop shipping, right? They have a system with Amazon where you can sign up to be a seller, and they will fulfill orders for you. You just set up the system. You would have to research and figure out how to do everything, of course. But you set up the system, you figure out what you want to sell, you buy the products at a very small price, like wholesalers do. So let's say that like there's a toy and it costs 5 cents. And you buy a bunch of them. Maybe let's say you buy 100 of them, right? It costs 5 cents, so that's $5 that you're gonna spend on 100 toys. And let's just say you sell them for $1 each, and then you get to make $500 back from the $5 that you spent on making the toys. But you don't have to go in the computer every day to like send when they make the order. You don't have to go in there, make sure that the product is coming from China to the warehouse, then to the person's address. Like, they do all of that in the system for you if you sign up as an Amazon seller. So that's something that you can do. You set up the system, you figure out what product you want to buy and sell, and then you let that make you money. Okay, so that's one example. Another example is like, maybe you could write an ebook. This is something that I did back in the day. I was a fitness coach. I'm not a fitness coach anymore, but back in the day, I wrote a short ebook on what to eat to help you lose weight. And I sold it also on Amazon. So I self-published it, so it didn't cost me anything to make it or to write it, just my time. It didn't take me long to write it, probably just a weekend. And then I listed it, and I didn't have to market it or anything like that if I didn't want to. I think I did for a little while, but it caught fire on Amazon. And they market stuff for you when it's related to other things that are similar to it, like weight loss things, nutrition things. They will market that stuff for you. You pay a small fee, of course, like to be on this platform, but when people buy, you make that back, and you make money, and you put money in your pocket. So those are just a couple examples of passive income, and that's helpful for you because instead of having to depend on others to buy you food, or if you feel like you want to get around on your own and you're putting a burden on someone else because they have to get up and drive you everywhere, and you want to get around on your own but maybe you can't drive, like maybe you can make some passive income to put in your bank account so that you can like call Ubers, or you can use Metrolift if you're really immobile, things like that. Or if you can get around, you can take transportation on your own, so you can take the burden off of other people, which will also take the burden off of you. So that's just one way that you can lift the burden some that you might have on yourself. Number 2, I acknowledged and catered to my patterns of illness. So one thing that really helped is paying attention to the things that trigger your flare-ups and being proactive about avoiding them if you possibly can. Okay, so some things are harder to avoid than others. Obviously, if you get triggered by working extra hours or having a hard day at work, that's something that you can't help, right? But if you get triggered by maybe going to the grocery store and going on a grocery shopping trip, that's something that you know is going to trigger you and give you a flare up, and you can help yourself with. Maybe you can assign the kids things to get in the grocery aisle. Maybe you can ride the thing in the store instead of walking around and walking. And putting more stress on your body than what is necessary. I know that's something that I do when I'm tired, because extreme fatigue applies to me a whole bunch. That's like the main thing that I deal with, and it's a burden on me because any little thing that I do can put me out for hours, days, and sometimes even a whole week. So when you can control things like that, delegating, it's like if you have a job, you're the boss and you have all of this pressure on you, you relieve some of that pressure by delegating things and giving them to other people. Now, some things that are harder to control, like having a stressful day at work and your workload being heavy, that may require some additional mental work to figure out, but you can always ask for help in figuring those things out. So there's certain thing called, like, you can go to HR and ask them to help accommodate you with your lupus needs, because this is something that is really affecting your health. You can get a lawyer to make sure you don't get fired or discriminated against for your lupus and have your needs accommodated. You can work with your teammates at work, your coworkers, and see if you can divide the load up and see if you guys can work as a team to make your work day less stressful. You can see if you can find another job that's going to put less stress on your mind and body than the one that you're currently working. You can work less hours, and you can use, like we talked about in number 1, passive income to supplement the income that you wouldn't be making at an actual physical job, and you can be making the other money that you wouldn't be making on your days off from passive income. So there are ways to figure out how to lift that burden off of you, even though there may be harder things to avoid. If you need help with those kinds of things, those are the kinds of things that I help my clients with and that you can coach with me on to figure those things out to make your life easier. Okay? Number 3, I orchestrated a lifestyle change that would help and not hurt my quality of life. So your quality of life is how well you live your life. A lot of people call that like wellness, your well-being. Your quality of life is how well you're living your life. So things like having a healthier diet, that's going to give you more energy. It's going to make you less sluggish, not feeling like you're dragging your body around all day and not feeling like you're so tired. You might still deal with fatigue and being tired like I do, but I know that it would be much worse, probably 10 times worse, if I was still eating like a bunch of fried foods, grease, a bunch of salt, a bunch of sugar. Like, I dismissed all of those things out of my diet, except for every once in a while. Like, I don't cook my food with salt in it. I don't eat a lot of snacks. I don't have snacks in my home. I don't eat like junk food, except every now and then, like maybe for holidays, for a barbecue or something, I'll eat chips, or if I go over someone's house and they offer me candy or something, I'll eat it. But I don't have those things in my home, so I'm not tempted to eat them, and they definitely help. Sometimes you have to have, get supplements, vitamins like B12. I know that helps a lot of people with their energy. D3, my doctor prescribes me D3 and iron to help, my immune system function better. So things like that help you and don't hurt you. And then, like we talked about also in example number 2, is if you could create a flexible work schedule for yourself, or create a schedule that will be less stressful on your body and your mind than what you're dealing with now, right? So orchestrating a lifestyle change that will help and not hurt your quality of life. Number 4, I learned assertion for my time and energy as needed. So you might be a person that does not know how to say no. This is something that you may need to learn how to do in order to reserve your energy, your time, and the labor that you put on your body and your mind. So learning how to say no, that could lift the burden for a lot of people. I know that that's really hard to do for some people. For a lot of people, that's hard to do. I wasn't always good at saying no, and I didn't know how to, but I got a mentor and I learned how to say no. Sometimes I had no choice but to say no, because I literally couldn't get out of bed. Sometimes that's how you learn to say no. But learning how to assert yourself and say no to things that are going to wear you out, to tire you out, or create pain in your body that's unnecessary. Learning assertion, that's number 4. Number 5, I divided and conquered my goals and passions into smaller and doable action tasks until I reached my goal. So instead of trying to do everything at once, trying to reach this big ultimate goal or dream, I really had to break them down into smaller tasks and give myself more time to do them instead of expecting myself to complete them. Let's just say that I wanted to complete a master's degree full time in 2 years and work a regular job, right? But my lupus is not allowing me to do that. So instead of just saying I'm not going to complete this degree at all, I can't maintain a full-time schedule at school and maintain a full-time schedule at work, I lifted some of those expectations for myself. So one thing that I did was I went home for a while, for like a year, where I didn't have to pay rent. So I didn't have to work full time, and I was able to get my schooling done in that way. But another example of doing that could be, instead of expecting yourself to finish school in 2 years, maybe you could give yourself 3 or 4 years to do it and divide your school time up. Instead of trying to go to school full time, you can take a couple of classes at once, one class at a time if you have to, as long as you get to the end goal. It still matters. It doesn't mean anything less to take longer to do it. You have lupus, it's okay. So taking those expectations off of yourself can help to lift that burden. And sometimes, depending on other people, for a short period of time, like how I did, I went home for about 5 months to do school and give myself a break on work. I did still work, but I just didn't work full-time hours. And that's something that you can do for yourself to help lift the burden off of you, because if you can finish school, then obviously you can make more money per hour, and the less hours that you work, you're now making more money now that you're done with school and you have another degree, and you can work less hours and still make the same amount of money, and that's less stress on your body, right? Or you'll be done with school, you can work full time, make more money, and then you'll have more money to accommodate yourself in other ways where you need it, like we talked about in the other examples, right? Number 6, release the old idea of what your life should look like and embrace the potential of what your new life could look like. So if you stick to those, excuse me, small doable goals, what could your life look like if you were to, just like we just talked about, take 4 years to finish school and lift the expectations of finishing your master's degree in 2 years? What would your life look like in 4 years as opposed to just not doing school at all? What would you be doing in 2 years from now? And how would your life look if you kept those expectations on yourself and just decided to kill yourself trying to do it, or not do it at all, or lift the expectations. Let yourself have more time to do it, maybe 3 years. And then what would your life look like if you stuck to smaller, doable goals? That's number 6. Release old ideas and embrace the potential of what your life could look like if you stick to smaller, doable goals. Okay? Number 7, ask for help and make temporary sacrifices to set yourself up for success long term. So I gave you plenty of examples of doing that. Like I said, you could move in with someone to save you income, to save you hours at work. You could find another job that's less stressful. Just a temporary sacrifice that you might have to make in order to set yourself up for long-term success. Or like the example I said, figuring out how to make passive income. It might take you a few months to get in a groove of it, to figure out what you want to do, to figure out how you want to make your money, what you want to make your money doing, and the system surrounding it. But it's worth it to sacrifice a few months of frustration and investigation and research for a lifetime of passive income. It's so worth it. That's success in the long term. Okay, so asking for help and making temporary sacrifices to set you up for long-term success. That's number 7. Number 8, feed your mind with inspiration to keep your mind focused on what you can do and a can-do attitude, and away from victim mentality. So instead of focusing on the things that you can't do and the challenges that you're posed with, you want to consistently fill your head with things that tell you you can do it. So listening to inspirational videos, motivational videos, praise music, reading self-help books, do-it-yourself books, getting a mentor, getting a life coach, getting a therapist, whatever it is that you have to do to keep feeding your mind so that you have the attitude of I can figure this out instead of the attitude of I can't do this, you will lift some of the burden off of yourself of having to depend on others to do things for you that you feel like you can't do on your own because you haven't figured out a way of doing it on your own, if that makes sense. Okay? That was number 8, right? Okay. Number 9 is finding and doing energizing activities that give you life instead of draining activities that suck the life out of you. So that goes a little bit along with the example I gave. I think number 4 maybe, about paying attention to what adds to your quality of life instead of what takes away from it. So much like eating well and giving yourself more energy with the foods that you eat instead of draining yourself with foods that are going to weigh you down and make you sluggish and tired, you're also going to want to do things that you're passionate about and make time for those things because they will give you energy, they will give you life. As opposed to like spending your time dreading and doing like things that make you feel like it's a chore to do. Does that make sense? That definitely helps to lift the burden off of you because it gives you more joy in life. Who wants to live a dreadful day every day? And the more joy you get, the more you want to contribute to that, the more you want to have more of that, and the more you can have a can-do attitude, the more that you'll be excited to figure out how I can do more of this, and the more that you can do more of this, the less of a burden your life feels like when you're dealing with lupus. Okay? And then number 10 is learning to have compassion for yourself. Just like if it were another loopy instead of you. So if I were to tell you the exact thing that you're struggling with, what would you tell me? What would you say to me to make me feel better about what I'm dealing with? And you tell that to yourself instead of condemning yourself and making yourself feel so bad about the things that you're dealing with, the things that others might have to deal with when it comes to your lupus. What would you tell another person that's dealing with lupus and has that exact same problem? That's what you should start telling yourself. And if you can't bring yourself to tell to give yourself compassion and tell yourself positive things surrounding that, that is when you should seek help. You should get a life coach, a therapist, a mentor, someone that can help you redirect those thoughts and create new thought patterns around that, so that you can feel better in your everyday life and lift that burden off of yourself. Okay, so that concludes the 10 things. These 10 things will help lift your spirit and give you purpose and improves your quality of life. Not only do you lift the burden off of yourself, but you also take the pressure off of others when you look after yourself and take care of your goals towards success. And like I said, if you need help implementing any of these steps, like I mentioned, that's okay. You can ask for help, and that's when you ask for help. And that's what I'm here for. I can help coach you through difficulties and obstacles to your desires so that you're sure to reach your desires step by step. So if you're interested in working with me, you can of course comment on this video. You can reach me in my DMs. If you do comment on this video and I reach out to you in your DMs and you're not seeing me, make sure that you check your spam box, your junk box, whatever they call it, your other inbox, so that I don't slip through your fingers. And of course, if you have any questions or concerns, or you just want to talk, you can comment, let's talk. You can find me on any platform at Beauty of Growth, all one word. And I look forward to hearing from you if that's the case. If not, I hope you were able to find value and are able to apply any of the things that we talked about and mentioned in today's video for your benefit and to lift some of that burden off of your life. Thank you for listening, and I hope to see you in another video. If not, that's okay. I appreciate you for being here for this one. Thanks for listening and sticking around to the end. And until next time.